Imagine slipping on a mask and suddenly becoming someone else, or something else entirely. For a moment, you're no longer just yourself. You might embody a powerful spirit, a revered ancestor, or even a divine force. This isn't just fantasy, it's a reality that has unfolded in cultures around the world for thousands of years. Masks, in their many forms, hold an almost magical ability to transcend the ordinary, connecting wearers and witnesses to realms beyond everyday perception. They are far more than carved wood, woven fibers, or painted surfaces. They are living symbols of belief, identity, and memory. And today, we're setting out on a journey to uncover just how deep that power truly runs. From the shadowy flicker of torchlight in ancient caves to the vibrant energy of modern festivals, masks have served as bridges between people and spirits, the past and the present, the individual and the community. Think about it, with just a mask, a dancer can channel the strength of a wild animal, a storyteller can give voice to long-gone ancestors, and a healer might invite guidance from otherworldly realms. These objects carry weight, they hold stories, and behind every mask lies a rich tapestry of cultural meaning, one that has been carefully woven across generations. We'll travel across continents and through time, meeting the artists, the ritual specialists, and the communities for whom masking is not performance, it's prayer, it's history, it's life itself. So what is it about masks that captures the human imagination so completely? Why do we return to them again and again, in moments of celebration, mourning, initiation, and reverence? In this video, we'll explore how masks preserve tradition, convey powerful messages about who we are, and tie people together through shared experience. We'll see them as tools of transformation, as keepers of ancestral wisdom, and as stunning works of art that speak a universal language. You're about to discover that a mask is never just a mask, it's a doorway. And once you step through, nothing looks quite the same again. Long before written history, in the flickering firelight of deep caves, our ancestors first discovered the transformative power of the mask. Archaeological evidence, like the haunting cave paintings in places such as the Trois Freres cave in France, depicts figures clad in animal skins and wearing headdresses, believed to be early shamans or ritual participants. These weren't mere hunters in disguise, they were individuals attempting to cross a fundamental boundary, using what was available in their environment: carved wood, shaped leather, painted bark, and even skulls. They crafted objects that allowed them to step out of their human identity and into something far greater. A mask made from a stag's skull wasn't just a representation of the animal, it was a vessel to channel its spirit, its strength, and its essence. This was the birth of an idea that would circle the globe, that a mask could be a conduit, a tool for bridging the seen world of the community and the unseen world of spirits and ancestors. This practice was deeply rooted in shamanic traditions, where a ritual specialist would enter a trance state and journey into the spirit realm to seek guidance, healing, or wisdom for the people. The mask was a critical part of this spiritual technology. By putting it on, the shaman wasn't pretending to be a bear or a bird, they were becoming it. They were aligning their consciousness with that ancient primal force. This act of embodiment granted them authority and access. They could negotiate with spirits for a successful hunt, interpret omens from the ancestral world, or cleanse the community of misfortune. The anthropologist Claude Lévi-Strauss profoundly noted that masks are not just objects but a complex language, a system of communication between humanity and the cosmos. They mediate relationships, translating the incomprehensible into a form the community can witness and understand. What's truly fascinating is that this concept didn't emerge in just one place and then spread. It appeared independently, a spontaneous flowering of the same human impulse across continents. From the indigenous tribes of the Americas to the early cultures of Africa and Asia, groups with no possible contact with each other all arrived at the same profound conclusion: that identity is fluid and that donning a mask can make the intangible tangible. This independent evolution points to something fundamental in our shared human psychology, a deep-seated need to make sense of the mysteries of life, death, and the natural world through symbolic action. These early rituals did more than just facilitate spirit communication. They forged the very fabric of community. When people gathered to witness a masked ceremony, they were participating in a shared belief system. They were reinforcing their collective identity, their place in the universe, and their cosmological story. The mask performance was a live, physical manifestation of their myths. It made abstract belief something you could see, hear, and feel, strengthening social bonds and ensuring cultural values were passed down not through lectures, but through powerful, unforgettable experience. This foundational role, established in the dim recesses of prehistory, set an unbroken precedent. It paved the way for every mask tradition that followed, from the elaborate dramas of ancient Greece to the sacred dances of West Africa, all carrying within them the echo of those first shamans who dared to wear a face not their own. But beyond their role as bridges to the spirit world, masks serve another, equally vital function. They are powerful anchors of identity. Think of a mask not as a disguise, but as a declaration. In countless societies, the mask you wear or the mask worn on your behalf tells a profound story about who you are, where you come from, and your place within the community. It is a wearable emblem of belonging, a three-dimensional family crest that connects the individual to a lineage that stretches back through generations. This is where the mask transforms from a tool for communicating with the unseen into a language for communicating the very essence of a culture to itself. Nowhere is this more vividly illustrated than among the indigenous peoples of the Pacific Northwest coast of North America. For nations like the Kwakwaka'wakwa, the Haida, and the Tlingit, the Potlatch ceremony is a cornerstone of social and spiritual life. And at the heart of the potlatch are the masks. These are not simple objects. They are titled heirlooms, much like a royal crown or a sacred text. A single, intricately carved mask might depict the raven, the killer whale, or the grizzly bear, but it represents far more than just an animal. It embodies a family's origin story, their ancestral encounters with supernatural beings, and the specific rights and privileges bestowed upon them. To own and display such a mask is to assert your family's history, its status, and its standing within the broader social structure. The potlatch itself is a dramatic theater of identity. During these elaborate feasts, hosts would validate their claims to names, titles, and territories by bringing these masks to life through dance and performance. When a dancer wears the mask of their clan's founding ancestor, they are not acting. They are making a legal and historical claim visible and undeniable. The entire community witnesses this affirmation, reinforcing the social order and the bonds that tie everyone together. The renowned anthropologist Franz Boas, who spent years studying these cultures, observed that these masks are essentially the physical archives of the people. They encapsulate myth, lore, and history in a form that is performed, remembered, and respected. They are the library, and the dance is the living story. This act of wearing a communal mask involves a beautiful paradox. To strengthen your connection to the group, you must temporarily let go of your individual self. The person beneath the mask steps aside, allowing the collective identity to take center stage. The dancer becomes the ancestor, the clan becomes the spirit, and the individual's heartbeat syncs with the rhythm of the community's drum. This isn't about losing oneself, it's about finding one's place within a larger, enduring whole. It fosters an incredible sense of unity and continuity, a tangible feeling that you are a vital link in a chain that stretches back to the beginning of time and forward into the future. This use of visual symbolism to preserve a unique worldview is a global phenomenon. From the fierce lion masks of certain West African warrior societies that signify courage and protection to the specific, codified masks of Japanese no theater that denote a character's age, gender, and moral standing, cultures have consistently used the face as a canvas for identity. The mask becomes a shortcut to understanding, a complex set of cultural instructions worn on the head. It tells you how to behave, what to expect, and how to relate to the person or the spirit that stands before you. This deep exploration reveals that masks are far more than ritual objects. They are the keepers of who we are, ensuring that even as generations pass, the community never forgets the face it presents to the world and the stories that gave it shape. Life itself is a series of transitions, and cultures around the world have long understood that these pivotal moments require more than just a simple announcement. They demand a profound communal recognition. This is where the mask steps in, serving as a powerful guide and witness to our most fundamental human passages. From the moment we enter the world to the day we leave it, and at every critical threshold in between, masks have been employed to mark, sanctify, and make sense of these changes. They act as both a shield and a bridge, protecting the individual in their vulnerable state of transition, while connecting them to the larger forces of tradition and the cosmos. Consider the profound journey from childhood to adulthood, a transition that many societies see not as a simple matter of aging, but as a literal transformation of the self. In numerous initiation rites, a mask is the key that unlocks this new state of being. For a young person, putting on a specific mask for the first time might symbolize the death of their childhood identity and the birth of their adult self. The mask becomes a new face, one that is recognized and respected by the community. It's a physical representation of the responsibilities, knowledge, and status they are now expected to carry. The mask doesn't just signify the change, it actively facilitates it, allowing the initiate to psychologically step into their new role with the full support of their ancestors and elders embodied in the ritual. A truly illuminating example of this comes from the Dogon people of Mali, whose funerary practices offer a breathtaking view into how masks manage the ultimate human transition, the journey from life to death. For the Dogon, death is not an end but a transition, a necessary step in the soul's long journey back to the ancestral realm. This is not a quiet, private affair, but a public, dramatic ceremony called the Dhamma, which can last for several days. The centerpiece of this ritual is the appearance of dozens of intricately carved masks, each with its own specific meaning and function. These aren't mere decorations, they are active participants. Danced by specially initiated men, the masks represent a pantheon of animals, ancestors, and spiritual forces. Their performance is a powerful, choreographed narrative. The chaotic, swirling dances are believed to coax the soul of the deceased, which may be reluctant to leave the world of the living toward its proper rest. The masks serve as guides, creating a pathway of movement and energy that leads the soul away from the village and into the spiritual world. But this ceremony is for the living as much as for the dead. For the entire Dogon community, witnessing this masked spectacle is a powerful reaffirmation of their most core belief, that life and death are part of an endless, sacred cycle. The masks make this abstract philosophy tangible. They are a visual, kinetic promise that existence continues, that the community endures, and that every individual in death returns to become part of the collective ancestral force that protects and guides the living. The French anthropologist Marcel Griaule, who spent years living with and learning from the Dogon, documented how these rituals are also a masterclass in education. While the immediate purpose is to guide a soul, the secondary, equally vital purpose is to teach the young. As children and adolescents watch the masked dances, they are absorbing the entire moral and cosmological framework of their culture. They learn about the hierarchy of animals and spirits, the importance of social roles, and the responsibilities that come with adulthood. The masks become the teachers, their movements and symbols encoding lessons about respect for elders, the interconnectedness of nature, and the proper way to live within the community. It is learning through awe and wonder, an experience that etches these lessons far deeper into the memory than any lecture ever could. This transformative power of the mask is a universal thread. In marriage ceremonies across cultures, masks can be used to symbolize the unification of families or the protective veiling of a bride as she transitions into a new life. In ceremonies welcoming a new birth, masks representing benevolent spirits might be danced to bless the infant and ward off misfortune. In each case, the mask provides a container for the powerful, often disorienting energy of change. It offers a familiar, culturally sanctioned form through which individuals and communities can navigate the most vulnerable and significant thresholds of life. By wearing or witnessing these sacred objects, people are not just observing a ritual, they are actively participating in the timeless human drama of transformation, guided by the silent, powerful wisdom of the mask. While masks guide us through personal transformations, they also play a crucial role in harmonizing entire communities with the grand, unstoppable cycles of the natural world. Across the globe, agricultural societies have long understood that their survival is inextricably linked to the whims of the seasons, the gentle spring rain, the intense summer sun, the bounty of the autumn harvest, and the necessary dormancy of winter. To influence these forces, to plead for favor and give thanks for abundance, they developed powerful ceremonies where masks became the physical embodiment of nature's most vital energies. These rituals are not mere superstition. They are a profound form of ecological dialogue, a way for human communities to actively participate in the rhythms of the earth, expressing both their deep dependence and their heartfelt reverence. Consider the fierce, otherworldly figures that emerge in the Alpine villages of Austria and southern Germany during the darkest days of winter. Here, the ancient tradition of the Crampus lauf, or Crampus run, sees participants donning terrifying, demonic masks carved from wood and adorned with massive horns, shaggy pelts, and clanging bells. The Crampus, a half-goat, half-demon creature from folklore, is the dark companion to Saint Nicholas. While Saint Nick rewards the good children, the Crampus, brought to life through these frightening masks, is there to chastise the wicked. But his role is far more complex than simple punishment. By noisily parading through the streets, these masked figures are performing a crucial task. They are symbolically driving out the lingering evil spirits of the old year, the stagnant energy and misfortune that could threaten the community's prosperity in the year to come. The chaos they incite is a form of spiritual purification, a reset button for the village. By confronting and banishing this embodied darkness, the community collectively clears the way for the light, fertility, and abundance of the coming spring, ensuring that the new year will dawn fresh and full of potential. On the other side of the world, in the refined and disciplined context of Japanese No theater, we find a more subtle but equally powerful connection to the seasons. No is a highly stylized art form where movement, music, and most importantly, the mask, combine to create a transcendent experience. The masks used in No, known as Omot, are masterpieces of craftsmanship and spiritual expression. In plays performed for specific seasonal festivals, an actor might wear a mask representing a kami or a nature deity. The same mask, tilted at a slightly different angle under the stage lighting, can appear to express profound emotional shifts from joy to sorrow, serenity to rage. This isn't just a theatrical trick, it is a direct reflection of the natural world's own dualities. The gentle spring rain that nourishes can also flood. The warm summer sun that grows crops can also bring drought. The no mask in the hands of a skilled performer becomes a conduit for these powerful, ambivalent natural forces. The performance itself becomes a ritual act, a way for the community to witness and meditate upon their relationship with the environment, acknowledging both its life-giving generosity and its terrifying, uncontrollable power. It is art in service of ecology, a beautiful and solemn reminder of the need for balance and respect. What unites the chaotic Crampus run and the solemn no drama is the mask's function as a collective lightning rod for a community's most pressing hopes and deepest fears. In an uncertain world where a single drought or a harsh winter could mean hardship or even starvation, these ceremonies provided a vital outlet for anxiety. By creating a physical representative of these abstract fears, whether it's a demon to be driven out or a deity to be appeased, people could actively engage with them. They could look their fear in the face, perform a ritual action against it, and in doing so, regain a sense of agency and control. The mask gave form to the formless, making the intangible forces of nature something that could be interacted with, negotiated with, and ultimately celebrated. This active participation is key. When a whole village turns out to watch the Crampus masks, or when an audience sits in silent reverence for a no play, they are not passive spectators. They are essential participants in a communal act of reaffirmation. They are collectively stating, "We remember that we are part of this natural world. We respect its power, we are grateful for its gifts, and we understand our role within its cycles." The masked ceremony becomes a living contract between the people and their environment, a dynamic interplay of culture and ecology that reinforces a sustainable and humble worldview. This deep, ritualized connection to the Earth's rhythms, facilitated by the transformative power of the mask, naturally leads us to wonder about an even more direct form of communication. If a mask can channel the energy of a season, can it also become a vessel for the divine itself? If a mask can channel the energy of a season, can it also become a vessel for the divine itself? This question brings us to one of the most profound and awe-inspiring functions of ceremonial masking across the globe: the belief that a mask can serve as a direct medium for communication with gods, spirits, or ancestors. In these sacred contexts, the mask is far more than a symbol. It is a kind of spiritual technology, a specially designed instrument that allows a human being to temporarily become a conduit for forces beyond our ordinary perception. The wearer doesn't just portray a deity. Through intricate rituals, prayers, and often trance states, they are believed to become a temporary vessel, their own consciousness receding to make space for the supernatural entity to speak, act, and interact directly with the community. A powerful illustration of this can be found in the vibrant and deeply spiritual tradition of Haitian Vodou. In ceremonies, while elaborate sacred garments are paramount, masks or face paint are also sometimes employed to mark this sacred transition. The purpose is to invite the LWA, the powerful spirits that act as intermediaries between humanity and Bondi, the supreme creator, to descend and mount a devotee, much like a rider mounts a horse. When this possession occurs, the individual is no longer themselves. Their voice may change, their posture alters, and they exhibit knowledge or abilities far beyond their normal capacity. For the community gathered, this is not a performance, It is a miracle unfolding before their eyes. The masked or costumed individual becomes the LWA, offering counsel, healing the sick, settling disputes, or delivering warning. This direct interaction provides a tangible, immediate experience of the divine, making abstract faith something that can be witnessed, touched, and spoken to. It is a profound blurring of the lines between the mortal and the immortal, where the mask acts as a crucial focal point that helps both the wearer and the witnesses focus their spiritual intention and recognize the moment of sacred arrival. The filmmaker and anthropologist Maya Deren, in her seminal work, Divine Horsemen, The Living Gods of Haiti, captured the sheer tangible reality of this transformation. She described it not as a loss of self, but as a sublime displacement, where the individual spirit steps aside to make room for a far greater presence. The mask, in this context, is an active and essential participant in this spiritual dialogue. It isn't merely a disguise for the human beneath. It is the recognized face of the spirit being welcomed into the community. It provides a visual anchor for worship, a point of mediation that makes the incomprehensible power of a god something approachable and knowable. This process demystifies the divine, bringing it into the heart of daily life to offer comfort, order, and meaning. This function of the mask as a direct medium is a global phenomenon, not confined to any single tradition. In the Tibetan Buddhist Cham dances, monks wear magnificent masks representing wrathful deities, bodhisattvas, and legendary figures. Through precise, meditative movement and chanting, the dancers are not simply acting out a story. They are embodying these enlightened beings, their performance serving as a blessing upon the land and all who witness it. The mask is the key to this embodiment, a sacred tool that facilitates the channeling of compassionate energy into the world. Similarly, in certain African diasporic traditions like candomblé in Brazil, specific face paints and coverings help initiate the process of possession by the Oroxars, the deified forces of nature. In each case, the common thread is transformation. The mask enables a temporary transcendence of ordinary reality, allowing for a direct, experiential encounter with the sacred that reinforces community bonds, offers divine solutions to human problems, and reaffirms a cosmic order where humanity is not alone, but is in constant, conscious conversation with the world of spirit. But if a mask can become a vessel for the divine, it can also become the voice of history itself. Across countless cultures, masks have served as one of humanity's most powerful and enduring storytelling tools. Long before the written word became widespread, how did a community ensure its most vital stories, its creation myths, its heroic legends, its hard-won moral lessons, were not lost to time? They brought them to life. They turned narrative into performance, and at the heart of that performance was often a mask. These objects are far more than props. They are the main characters in a living, breathing archive, a dynamic way to make complex histories and abstract values instantly recognizable, deeply felt, and unforgettable. A stunning example of this narrative power is found in the Jellad masquerade of the Yoruba people of Nigeria and Benin. This is not a somber, solemn ritual, but a vibrant, often joyful, and surprisingly satirical community festival. The elaborate masks used in Jellad are truly works of art, often featuring superstructures that depict entire scenes: a woman grinding corn, a coiled snake, or a European colonial officer with a pith helmet. These aren't arbitrary decorations, they are frozen moments from a story, waiting for the dancer to animate them. The performances that accompany these masks are a brilliant blend of entertainment and instruction. Through dance, music, and satire, the masked figures dramatize Yoruba myths about the founding of the world and the immense mystical power of women, particularly elderly women. who are revered as our mothers and believed to hold the dual forces of creation and destruction. The humor is a masterstroke. By poking fun at social misconduct, vanity, or the absurdities of human behavior, the Jellad masks make their moral lessons palatable and engaging for everyone, from the smallest child to the most respected elder. A mask depicting a greedy person might be danced in a comically gluttonous way, drawing laughter but also driving home a serious point about community values. This use of satire ensures the stories are not just heard but discussed, remembered, and internalized. The art historian Robert Ferris Thompson profoundly observed that such African masquerades form a living archive. The performance itself is the text, and the mask is the illuminated capital letter at the beginning of the chapter. It's an archive that is not locked away in a museum but is danced, sung, and laughed into existence year after year, adaptable to include commentary on contemporary issues while remaining utterly faithful to its core traditional purpose. This principle of the mask as a narrative vehicle is a universal one. In the Native American Kwakwaka'wakwa tradition of the Pacific Northwest, transformation masks are engineered masterpieces that physically unfold during a performance. A dancer might begin with the mask closed, portraying the outer face of a raven. Then, with a pull of a string, the mask splits open to reveal an inner human face, dramatically enacting the moment in their creation stories when the raven transformer shed his bird form to become the first human. The audience doesn't just hear the story, they see it happen right before their eyes. The mask becomes the plot twist, a mechanical wonder that makes the mythical tangible. This is the ultimate magic of the mask in storytelling. It allows for embodiment. An elder telling a tale is one thing. A masked figure being the ancestor, the trickster god, or the founding hero is something else entirely. It collapses time, bringing the past into the present moment with visceral immediacy. For the community, especially for younger generations, this is not a history lesson, it is an experience. It fosters an incredible sense of cultural pride and continuity, a feeling that these are our stories, this is our face, and this is who we are. The mask ensures that knowledge is not a dry list of facts but a sensory, emotional, and participatory event, keeping the collective imagination vibrant and ensuring that the wisdom of the ancestors never becomes a distant echo, but remains a clear, powerful voice speaking directly to the present. And to create a voice this powerful requires an artist's hand, a deep understanding of symbolism, and a reverence for materials that transforms raw resources into something capable of holding an entire culture's memory. Behind every powerful mask performance lies an equally profound act of creation, a process where raw materials are transformed through skill, patience, and deep cultural knowledge into objects of spiritual significance. The artistry involved in mask making is a world unto itself, a fascinating intersection of function, symbolism, and breathtaking craftsmanship. The techniques employed are as diverse as the cultures they come from, each one a direct response to the local environment, the intended purpose of the mask, and the symbolic language of the people. This isn't mass production. It is the meticulous application of knowledge passed down through generations, where the choice of a single material or the stroke of a specific color can carry volumes of meaning. Consider the stark, powerful beauty of an Inuit mask from the Arctic regions. Carved from driftwood collected along the shorelines, the artist works in harmony with the material's natural shape and grain, often allowing its organic curves to suggest the form of the spirit being revealed. The wood is then adorned with feathers, sealskin, or even bits of bone, each element carefully chosen. A tuft of owl feathers might represent wisdom and the ability to see in the dark, both physical and spiritual. These aren't mere decorations, they are integral components of the mask's identity. directly referencing the animal spirits that are central to Inuit cosmology and survival. The mask becomes a map of the relationship between the people, the animals they hunt, and the fragile, powerful ecosystem they inhabit. Every step of its creation is a meditation on that connection. Now travel across the globe to the bustling workshops of Venice during the Renaissance. Here, the art of mask-making took on a completely different character, yet it was no less steeped in cultural meaning. Venetian Carnival masks, born from a society of immense wealth and complex social hierarchies, are masterpieces of illusion and opulence. Artisans developed incredibly refined techniques using papier-mâché layers of paper and glue pressed into molds and then painstakingly sanded to a perfect, smooth finish. This lightweight base was then transformed into objects of fantasy through gilding with real gold leaf, intricate hand painting with delicate brushes, and the application of jewels, velvet, and elaborate plumes. These masks reflected the Renaissance ideals of beauty, artistry, and theatricality. They were designed for a specific social function, to provide anonymity, allowing a temporary suspension of the rigid class structure during the carnival season. The craftsmanship itself was a declaration of Venetian sophistication and a celebration of human creativity. What unites these two vastly different traditions is the profound journey of the artisan. In cultures around the world, becoming a mask maker is rarely a simple career choice. It is a calling that often requires a long and demanding apprenticeship. A young person doesn't just learn how to carve or mold. They are initiated into a sacred trust. They learn the stories behind each symbol, the prayers to be said over the materials, the correct season to harvest wood or mix pigments. They learn to see the spirit waiting within a block of wood or a lump of clay. Master craftspeople often speak of the process itself as a form of ritual, where intention and respect are as important as any tool. The act of carving, painting, or assembling is done with a focused mind, a form of meditation that imbues the object with purpose long before it is ever danced or worn. This ensures that each mask is not just aesthetically pleasing but is spiritually correct, meeting the exacting standards of both tradition and the divine forces it is meant to engage. This incredible dedication to craft does more than produce beautiful objects for ceremony. It is the very engine of cultural preservation. When a master artisan teaches an apprentice how to select the right tree, mix a traditional pigment from clay and egg tempera, or attach feathers in the old way, they are not just passing on a technical skill. They are transmitting a language. They are ensuring that a worldview, a system of symbols, and a connection to history remain alive and tangible. The continued practice of these techniques, often in the face of modernization and globalization, is a powerful act of resilience. It sustains heritage not as a frozen relic in a museum case, but as a living, breathing, and constantly practiced art form. To understand the depth of this craftsmanship is to appreciate the mask not merely as a finished artifact, but as the beautiful, intentional, and sacred result of a human being's deepest creative dialogue with their culture and their world. Yet for all their enduring power, mask traditions are far from frozen in time. They are not museum pieces locked behind glass, but living, breathing practices that have consistently evolved, adapting to seismic social shifts, foreign influences, and the relentless march of technology. Think of a mask not as a historical artifact, but as a conversation, a dialogue between a culture's deepest past and its ever-changing present. This incredible flexibility is the secret to their survival. They absorb new ideas, incorporate new materials, and address new realities, all while holding fast to their core symbolic purpose: to transform, to communicate, and to connect. A beautiful and profound example of this adaptive power is the vibrant tradition of the Day of the Dead, or Dia de los Muertos, in Mexico. This celebration is a masterpiece of cultural syncretism, a blending of worlds. It intertwines the ancient pre-Columbian beliefs of civilizations like the Aztec and the Purépecha, who honored the goddess Mictlantecuhtli, the Lady of the Dead, with the Catholic rituals and calendar brought by Spanish colonizers, specifically All Saints and All Souls Day. The masks and face paint, known as calavera or skull makeup, worn during these festivities are a perfect visual representation of this fusion. The central image is the skull, a powerful motif from pre-Hispanic times symbolizing life, death, and rebirth in a continuous cycle. But this ancient symbol is painted onto the living face of a participant who may be attending a Catholic Mass before heading to a vibrantly decorated family altar. The designs themselves often incorporate intricate floral patterns, reflecting the indigenous marigold or cempasúchil, believed to guide the spirits with its scent, alongside more European Gothic or Victorian decorative elements. This isn't a case of one tradition erasing another. It's a creative, resilient response to colonialism that produced something entirely new and powerful. The mask of the calavera doesn't hide identity. It reveals a deeper, more complex truth about Mexican identity itself, one that embraces both its indigenous and European roots to celebrate ancestry with joy, humor, and unwavering resilience. This process of adaptation didn't end with the colonial era. It has accelerated in our modern, globalized world. Contemporary artists are now using the language of the mask to grapple with 21st century issues, proving its relevance is absolutely undiminished. We see performance artists creating masks from recycled plastics to comment on environmental crisis, their faces becoming a haunting representation of the planet's fragility. Digital artists are designing virtual reality masks that can be worn in online spaces, allowing users to adopt anonymous or fantastical avatars for social commentary or personal exploration, a direct echo of the Venetian Carnival's function but on a global, digital scale. These modern adaptations might use new tools, 3D printers, LED lights, interactive sensors, but they are asking the same ancient questions about identity, community, and our relationship to the unseen. They reference ancient forms like the protective gorgon face of Greek myth or the balanced tragedy and comedy masks of the theater to create a visual shorthand that connects their cutting-edge work to a deep, shared human history. The early 20th century anthropologist James Frazer, in his seminal work The Golden Bough, meticulously traced how symbols and rituals, including masking, travel and transform across cultures. He observed that these practices are remarkably porous. They absorb elements from new encounters, reflecting a constant process of cultural exchange. A mask tradition in one part of the world might integrate a new color introduced by trade, a new animal spirit encountered through migration, or a new spiritual concept learned from a neighboring tribe. This isn't a sign of weakness or dilution, but rather a demonstration of incredible strength and flexibility. It shows that the most enduring traditions are those that are alive, that can breathe in new air and yet remain fundamentally themselves. This evolutionary journey makes it clear that a mask is never a static relic. It is a responsive, dynamic expression of human creativity, a tool so fundamentally useful and meaningful that it can be reshaped to address the anxieties, hopes, and questions of any era without ever losing its essential, transformative magic. And this dynamic conversation between tradition and innovation is exactly what we see flourishing in contemporary ceremonial practices today. Far from being relegated to history books or museum displays, masks are living, breathing elements of modern ritual, constantly being reinvented to speak to the needs of our current moment. They possess a remarkable ability to bridge vast distances not just across time, connecting us to ancient practices, but across geography, helping diasporic communities maintain a tangible link to their homelands while firmly planting their feet in a new world. This isn't about preserving culture in amber. It's about actively weaving it into the fabric of a multicultural present, ensuring it remains vibrant, relevant, and powerfully expressive. Take the explosion of color and sound that is the Carabana Festival in Toronto, one of the largest cultural festivals in North America. Here, the art of the masquerade is the heart and soul of the celebration, a direct inheritance from the Caribbean Carnival tradition. But look closer at the magnificent costumes and headpieces, what many would call masks worn by the performers. They are breathtaking feats of modern artistry, often incorporating LED lights, innovative plastics, and materials unimaginable to artisans a century ago. They might depict a classic Moko Jumbi stilt walker, a figure rooted in West African spiritual practice believed to ward off evil, but the design could simultaneously tell a story about contemporary social justice or celebrate a pop culture icon. For the Caribbean diaspora in Canada, participating in this masquerade is an act of profound cultural affirmation. It's a way to say, this is who we are and this is where we are now. The mask becomes a vehicle for joy, for pride, and for the complex, beautiful negotiation of identity that defines the immigrant experience. It honors legacy not through slavish replication, but through fearless, joyful innovation. Beyond these massive public celebrations, we also see masks appearing in more intimate, personal contexts that speak to a growing global desire for meaning and connection. In the realm of wellness and eco-spirituality, facilitators are incorporating mask-making and mask-wearing into retreats and workshops. The intention here is often inward. Participants might be guided to create a mask that represents a hidden aspect of their personality, a personal challenge, or a future aspiration. The act of creation becomes a meditative, therapeutic process. Then, in a safe, ceremonial space, wearing that self-made mask can allow for a powerful exploration of that inner self, a safe container to embody a new way of being or to release an old pattern. In other settings, masks made from natural materials, leaves, clay, feathers, are used in neo-pagan or earth-honoring rituals to help participants symbolically shed their human-centric perspective and connect more deeply with the consciousness of the natural world. They might wear a mask of the wolf to explore instincts or a mask of the river to meditate on flow and adaptability. These are new ceremonies for a new age, yet they harness the mask's most ancient power, the power of transformation. Conversations with the cultural practitioners who steward these traditions are incredibly revealing. They speak with deep reverence for the old ways, often having spent years apprenticing with elders to learn the proper protocols, the sacred stories, and the traditional techniques. But they also express a passionate conviction that for their culture to survive, it must breathe and grow. They see themselves not as gatekeepers, but as translators finding ways to make ancestral wisdom accessible and resonant for younger generations who live in a very different world. This might mean using social media to document the mask-making process, collaborating with digital artists to create virtual reality masquerades, or adapting a traditional mask's design to comment on climate change. This delicate balancing act, honoring the sacred roots while allowing for new branches to grow, is what ensures these practices don't become historical reenactments but remain vital, living traditions. This ongoing vitality, from the city streets of Toronto to the quiet spaces of personal growth, underscores a fundamental and enduring human need. We still crave ritual. We still seek out tools that allow us to transcend our everyday selves, to connect with community, and to navigate the great transformations of our lives. The mask, in all its modern permutations, continues to answer that call. To truly appreciate the incredible diversity of mask traditions, we must turn our gaze to the African continent, a place where the art of masking reaches some of its most sophisticated and socially complex forms. It's impossible to speak of a single African mask tradition. That would be like describing a single European cuisine. Instead, we find a breathtaking tapestry of practices, each one uniquely adapted to the environment, history, and social structure of its people. From the dense rainforests of West Africa to the sweeping savannas of the East, masks have been woven into the very fabric of life, serving not just as spiritual conduits but as active, dynamic participants in law, education, and the maintenance of social order. This is where we see the mask's potential as a multifaceted cultural tool fully realized. Consider the intricate social machinery of the Dan people, who live across Liberia and Côte d'Ivoire. For the Dan, certain masks are far more than ritual objects. They are the embodiment of law and order itself. The most famous of these is the Gli or Goji mask, a beautiful, often feminine face with a high, smooth forehead and downcast eyes, representing idealized beauty, tranquility, and moral purity. But its function is intensely practical. When a dispute arises within the community, a quarrel over land, a marital conflict, a theft, the Gli mask is summoned. It is not worn by just anyone. Its dancer is a highly respected individual who has undergone rigorous training. When the mask appears, the individual beneath it is no longer seen. The community sees only the mask, and with it, the impartial authority of tradition and justice. The Gli mask doesn't speak. Its power is in its silent, imposing presence. It observes the proceedings, and its very gaze compels truth-telling and reconciliation. Its judgment is final, not because it threatens punishment, but because it represents the collective conscience and wisdom of the ancestors. It resolves conflict by reminding everyone of the higher social harmony they are all obligated to maintain. This is governance through symbolism, a powerful example of how a mask can become the face of justice itself. Now travel north to the dry, rugged lands of Burkina Faso, home to the BWA people. Here, the masks are not serene human faces but spectacular, geometric abstractions that seem to leap from the very patterns of the universe. BWA masks are often massive planks painted in bold, contrasting colors of red, white, and black, and etched with intricate geometric patterns, zigzags that represent the path of ancestors, checkerboards that symbolize the separation of knowledge between men and women, and circles that depict the sun and the moon. These are the faces of protective spirits called Dou, and they are central to initiation ceremonies for young men. The purpose is not to punish or judge, but to teach and integrate. When a young man is taken into the bush for his initiation, elders use these masks to impart the essential knowledge he will need to become a full adult member of the community. The patterns on the mask are a visual language, each one encoding a lesson about social responsibility, ethical behavior, and the Biwa's history and cosmology. The dramatic, energetic dancing of these large, colorful masks makes these lessons unforgettable, searing them into the memory not just of the initiate, but of the entire village that witnesses the ceremony. It is education as a total sensory experience, where wisdom is not just heard but seen and felt. The renowned art historian Susan Vodou spent decades studying these traditions, and she powerfully argued that African masks cannot be understood as isolated art objects. They only make sense within the complex social systems that give them life. She described them as performative objects, meaning their true meaning and power are only activated through their use in a specific social context. A BWA plank mask hanging on a museum wall is a beautiful sculpture, but it is dormant. Its power to teach, to protect, and to connect a community to its ancestors is only awakened when it is danced in the dust of the village square under the African sun, surrounded by the people who believe in its power. This perspective shifts our understanding entirely. It shows us that the mask is not a representation of power. It is an instrument for power, the power to heal social rifts, to transmit knowledge across generations, and to make the invisible principles of a culture visible and tangible. This incredible African lens gives us a foundational toolkit for understanding masking everywhere. It shows us that a single object can simultaneously be a spiritual icon, a legal authority, a pedagogical tool, and a work of profound artistic expression. The Dan and BWA traditions, though just two examples from a continent of thousands, demonstrate the sheer versatility of the mask as a human technology for living together. They provide a rich, nuanced foundation that allows us to ask more insightful questions as we now compare these practices to the equally profound, but often philosophically distinct, masking traditions that emerged across Asia. Moving from the social and spiritual frameworks of Africa, we arrive in Asia, where mask traditions unfold with a distinct philosophical elegance, often intertwining profound spiritual doctrine with high theatrical art. Here, the mask becomes a refined instrument for exploring the deepest questions of human existence, from the nature of suffering to the path to enlightenment, all while maintaining a powerful connection to community and satire. Asian masking practices are frequently characterized by an exquisite stylization, where every curve, color, and expression is codified, representing not an individual but an archetype, an emotion, or a cosmic principle. This is not art for art's sake. It is art in the devoted service of moral and spiritual instruction. Consider the raucous, liberating energy of Korean talchum, or mask dance drama. Unlike the silent, imposing authority of a Dan Glee mask, talchum is loud, chaotic, and uproariously funny. The masks themselves, often carved from wood or fashioned from paper, are not meant to be beautiful in a serene way. They are exaggerated, grotesque even, with lolling tongues, bulging eyes, and leering grins. They represent a cast of classic characters: the corrupt and lecherous Buddhist monk, the arrogant Yongban aristocrat, the long-suffering but clever servant, the shaman, the flirtatious young woman. For centuries, in village squares across Korea, these masked characters acted out bawdy, satirical plays that ruthlessly lampooned the social hierarchies and hypocrisies of the rigid Confucian class system. The aristocrat is made a fool, the monk's vows are revealed as a sham, and the common folk often triumph through wit and cunning. But this humor was far more than simple entertainment. It was a vital social safety valve. In a society where openly criticizing one's superiors could lead to severe punishment, the mask provided a necessary anonymity for the performers and a collective catharsis for the audience. For a few hours, the established social order was turned upside down through laughter. Everyone, the peasant, the artisan, the outcast, could gather and collectively mock the powerful, releasing pent-up frustrations and tensions in a safe, sanctioned space. The talchum mask, therefore, becomes a tool of social critique and psychological release. It allows a community to look its injustices in the face, laugh at them, and in doing so, momentarily transcend them, reaffirming a shared sense of humanity that exists beyond artificial social ranks. In stark contrast to this earthly satire, high in the Himalayas, the mask takes on a solemn, sacred duty in Tibetan Buddhist Cham dances. Here, there is no satire, only sublime spiritual pedagogy. Cham masks are breathtaking artifacts, often crafted from precious metals, intricate papier-mâché, and adorned with jewels and silk. They are heavy, both physically and symbolically, representing not human stereotypes but terrifying wrathful deities, serene bodhisattvas, and skeletal figures representing impermanence. These are not costumes for play, they are sacred vestments for ritual. During religious festivals, monks spend months in preparation. Their creation of the masks and their meticulous rehearsal of the dances considered a form of meditation and a meritorious act that accumulates positive karma. The dance itself is a precise, hypnotic, and powerful meditation in motion. When a monk dons the mask of a wrathful deity like Mahakala, he is not pretending to be a demon. He is embodying the fierce, uncompromising energy of compassion that destroys ignorance and ego, the very obstacles to enlightenment. The slow, deliberate, and intricate movements of the dance are a literal mapping of spiritual realms, a guided visualization made physical for the benefit of all who witness it. The terrifying face of the deity is not meant to scare devotees away, but to show them the fierce determination required to cut through their own inner delusions. As scholar Pema Dorji has emphasized, every aspect of the mask's creation and use is devotional. The artist's hand is guided by scripture, the dancer's steps are a prescribed prayer. The performance is not a show for an audience but a blessing upon the land and all sentient beings, a way to transmit complex Buddhist teachings about compassion, emptiness, and the cycle of samsara in a form that is immediately understandable and felt at a visceral level. This incredible diversity within Asia itself, from the satirical streets of Korea to the sacred courtyards of Tibetan monasteries, reveals a common thread that is less about a specific function and more about a shared approach. There is a profound emphasis on discipline, both artistic and spiritual. Whether it's the precise choreography of a Talchum performer or the meticulous sand mandala construction that often accompanies a Cham dance, the practice is rigorous and codified. The mask is the focal point of this discipline, a perfect fusion of aesthetic mastery and philosophical depth. It serves as a bridge between the abstract and the tangible, allowing communities to collectively reflect on everything from the flaws of their social order to the nature of reality itself. This disciplined, ideology-rich approach to masking offers a fascinating counterpoint to the more carnivalesque and socially inverting traditions found in much of Western history, inviting us to consider the many ways humanity has used this simple object to confront the complexities of existence. Crossing the Pacific, we find this same principle of interconnection embodied with stunning artistry among the indigenous cultures of the Americas, where masking traditions are deeply woven into the very fabric of the land and its history. Here, the mask is not merely an object used in ceremony. It is a vital expression of a worldview that sees no separation between the human, the natural, and the spiritual realms. From the misty, cedar-scented coastlines of the Pacific Northwest to the soaring peaks of the Andes, these practices offer profound insights into how cultures understand their place within a living, sentient cosmos, using masks to navigate relationships with ancestors, animals, and the environment itself. Perhaps no masks capture this fluid relationship between worlds more dramatically than the transformation masks of the Kwakwaka'wakwa and other nations of the Pacific Northwest. These are not static carvings, they are masterpieces of mechanical ingenuity and spiritual symbolism. A single, beautifully painted mask might depict the outer visage of a raven or an eagle. But at a climactic moment in a potlatch ceremony, the dancer pulls hidden strings. The outer mask splits open, unfolds, or rotates, dramatically revealing an entirely different face within, often a human face, representing the ancestor or the true spirit essence of the creature. This breathtaking reveal is far more than theatrical spectacle. It is a physical manifestation of a core belief. It visualizes the idea that all forms are permeable, that a human can become an animal, an ancestor can return in the form of a bird, and that the supernatural world is not a distant heaven but a layer of reality that is intimately close, capable of breaking through into the visible world at any moment. The mask becomes a portal, and its movement is a sacred magic trick that makes the deepest truth of the culture visible to all. This stands in fascinating contrast to the funerary practices of the ancient Andean civilizations, such as the Moch or the Sican. For these cultures, the mask's power was directed toward ensuring a safe passage into eternity. Elites and rulers were often buried wearing masks of breathtaking craftsmanship, fashioned not from wood, but from hammered gold, inlaid with semi-precious stones like turquoise or lapis lazuli. The sheer material value spoke to the individual's high status in life, but the symbolism ran infinitely deeper. Gold was not chosen for its monetary worth, but for its perceived spiritual properties. Its incorruptible, sun-like brilliance made it the perfect material to represent the eternal, unchanging soul of the deceased. A mask of solid gold, placed over the face of a mummy bundle, was believed to act as a permanent, indestructible new face for the afterlife. It protected the soul on its dangerous journey to the other world, serving as a marker of identity that the ancestors would recognize, and it sealed the individual's divine status for all eternity. Where the Northwest Coast masks emphasize transformation and fluidity, these Andean masks emphasize permanence and the unwavering continuation of the soul's journey beyond death. Anthropologist Aldona Jonites has spent a career studying Northwest Coast art, and her work beautifully illuminates how these masks are far more than spiritual tools. They are dense repositories of knowledge. The specific animals depicted, the bear, the killer whale, the salmon, are not chosen at random. They represent a deep, granular understanding of the local ecosystem. A mask tells a story about the salmon run, the bear's hibernation, the hunting techniques for a whale. This environmental knowledge is encoded in the art, passed down through the generations, not in textbooks, but in the curves of a beak and the paint on a cheek. Furthermore, these masks are records of historical resilience. The Potlatch ceremony, during which they were danced, was outlawed by colonial governments for decades in a deliberate attempt to break indigenous culture. The fact that these masks continued to be made in secret, that the songs were quietly remembered, and that the ceremonies burst back into the open with renewed vigor when the bans were lifted, speaks to an incredible cultural endurance. The mask itself becomes a symbol of survival. When we look at indigenous masking traditions across the Americas through this dual lens, a powerful common theme emerges, a profound emphasis on interconnection and continuity. The Northwest Coast mask connects the human to the animal spirit in a continuous cycle of transformation. The Andean mask connects the living to the dead and the soul to the eternal, ensuring continuity beyond the grave. In both cases, the mask acts as a mediator, but it also teaches a sustainable worldview. By visually representing a universe where everything is linked, where the human community is responsible to the animal world, and the living are in constant dialogue with the dead, these traditions foster a sense of balance and reciprocal obligation. They offer a timeless lesson that to know who you are, you must understand your relationship to your ancestors, to the land that feeds you, and to the other beings that share your world. This perspective doesn't just enrich our understanding of masks, it challenges us to see them as philosophical statements, as ancient, wearable wisdom about how to live a connected and meaningful life. While the masks of the Americas and Asia often connect us to the spirit world or encode deep philosophical systems, the traditions that blossomed across Europe reveal a different yet equally vital human impulse, the need for collective catharsis and social inversion. Here, the mask becomes a tool for the people, a sanctioned vehicle for upending the established order, challenging authority, and releasing the immense pressure that builds up in highly structured societies. European masking is a world of vibrant chaos, where the sacred and the profane dance together in a brilliant, often raucous, celebration of the human spirit's need for freedom. Nowhere is this primal function more vividly on display than in the Alpine winter traditions of Central Europe. In the deep cold of December and January, in the remote villages of Austria, Germany, and Switzerland, terrifying figures emerge from the shadows. These are the Potlatch, named for Potlatch, a fearsome pagan goddess of winter. The masks worn in these processions are true marvels of folk horror. Carved from dark wood, they feature monstrous, twisted faces, long matted hair of straw, gnarled teeth, and most famously, enormous horns that curl toward the sky. The costumes are shaggy pelts of fur and sheepskin, and the wearers stomp through the streets, their bodies hung with heavy bells that create a deafening, chaotic din meant to mimic the sounds of wild nature. This isn't a performance for tourists, it's a deeply rooted ritual of purification. The Potlatch are not meant to be friendly. Their role is to be so frightening, so overwhelmingly wild and loud, that they literally scare away the lingering ghosts of the old year, the darkness of winter, and any malevolent spirits that might be clinging to the community. By confronting this embodied chaos head-on, the village collectively cleanses itself, symbolically driving out stagnation and misfortune to make way for the light, fertility, and promise of the coming spring. This stands in stark contrast to the elegant, sophisticated anonymity of the Venetian Carnival. While the Potlatch masks are rooted in rural, pagan folk belief, the Venetian mask is a product of the urban, Christian city-state, and its function was profoundly social. For several centuries, Venice was one of the wealthiest and most powerful republics in the world, but it was also a society with an incredibly rigid and formal class structure. The invention of the elaborate, full-face carnival mask, the botta with its stark white face and jutting chin, the sinister medico della peste plague doctor with its long beak created a remarkable social equalizer. When everyone in the piazza is masked, a nobleman could not be distinguished from a merchant, a servant from their master. This granted a breathtaking and, for the authorities, sometimes terrifying level of anonymity. For the duration of the carnival season, the strict rules of decorum were suspended. People could gamble in public, engage in illicit affairs, and most importantly, openly critique the government through satire and mockery, all from behind the safety of their porcelain or papier-mâché disguise. The mask became a license for free speech in a society that otherwise offered very little. It was a pressure valve for the entire republic, allowing every level of society to blow off steam in a controlled, time-limited explosion of celebration and critique. This temporary inversion of the social order didn't threaten the stability of the state. Paradoxically, it reinforced it. By providing a designated period where the normal rules didn't apply, the system allowed for a managed release of discontent that ultimately helped maintain the status quo for the rest of the year. The great literary theorist Mikhail Bakhtin famously called this phenomenon the carnivalesque. He argued that events like carnival are not mere entertainment. They are a fundamental, necessary part of human society. The carnivalesque creates a second life of the people, a world upside down where fools become kings, the sacred is mocked, and the high and mighty are brought low through laughter and grotesque parody. Bakhtin saw this not as nihilism, but as a profoundly renewing force. By temporarily breaking down all barriers of rank, privilege, and decorum, the carnival, and the mask that makes it possible, fosters a unique sense of community and shared humanity. It allows people to experience a form of freedom and equality that is normally denied them, and in doing so, it rejuvenates them for a return to the ordinary world. The mask is the essential tool that enables this transformation, allowing individuals to shed their fixed social identities and experiment with being someone else, if only for a night. This European lens offers a powerful contrast to the traditions we've explored elsewhere, where a Tibetan Cham mask is worn to embody a divine principle with solemn discipline, and a Dan Glee mask is summoned to embody impartial justice. The European mask is often about liberation from principle and structure. It manages collective stress and channels collective joy through a temporary escape from the self and its social constraints. Whether it's the frightening, cathartic roar of the Pachten driving out winter or the sly, satirical whisper of a Venetian masker mocking a senator, the purpose is fundamentally psychological and social. It shows us that the mask can be a tool for managing the immense weight of living together in complex societies, providing a necessary outlet for the tensions that inevitably arise and reminding us that beneath all our roles and ranks, we share a common, chaotic, and celebratory humanity. This journey into the psychological power of the mask naturally leads us to wonder what happens to the individual mind when it chooses to hide its own face and embrace another. But what happens inside the mind of the person who chooses to wear the mask? Stepping beyond the cultural stage, we enter the private theater of the self, where the act of masking unlocks profound psychological doors. The moment an individual dons a ceremonial face, a fascinating internal shift often occurs. It's as if the physical weight of the mask lifts the psychological weight of their own identity, allowing them to step outside the confines of their everyday ego. This isn't merely pretending. It's a form of voluntary, temporary possession by an idea, an archetype, or an aspect of their own psyche that normally remains hidden. The mask becomes a key, granting access to inner realms of consciousness that are usually guarded and inaccessible. The pioneering psychologist Carl Jung offered a powerful framework for understanding this phenomenon. He theorized that beneath our personal conscious mind lies the collective unconscious, a deep reservoir of universal, primal patterns of behavior and imagery called archetypes. These archetypes, figures like the wise old man, the great mother, the trickster, or the hero, are the fundamental building blocks of our shared human story. Jung saw rituals and symbols, including masks, as direct pathways to these powerful energies. When a person wears a mask representing a specific archetype, they are not just dressing up, they are psychologically aligning themselves with that universal force. This can be a deeply cathartic and transformative experience. It allows an individual to safely explore their own shadow self, the parts of their personality that are repressed, denied, or deemed unacceptable by society. By giving these hidden aspects a face and a form through the mask, a person can confront them, understand them, and ultimately integrate them, leading to greater wholeness and self-awareness. The mask, in this Jungian sense, is a tool for individuation, the process of becoming one's complete and authentic self. This transformative potential has not been lost on the field of modern therapy. In art therapy and psychodrama, mask-making and mask-wearing are powerful techniques used to facilitate healing and emotional exploration. The process often begins with the creation of the mask itself. A person might be asked to create a mask that represents how they present themselves to the world, the persona, and then another that represents their hidden feelings or their inner critic. The very act of sculpting, painting, and giving form to these intangible emotions is therapeutic. It externalizes internal struggles, making them something that can be seen, held, and confronted outside of oneself. Then, the even more powerful step, wearing the mask, in the safety of a therapeutic setting, putting on a mask that represents grief, rage, or joy can provide the necessary distance for a person to fully express those emotions without feeling overwhelmed or judged. They can speak from behind the mask, allowing the protected self to give voice to truths that might otherwise remain locked away. This symbolic practice allows for profound emotional release and can be particularly effective for individuals processing trauma, exploring identity issues, or simply seeking a deeper understanding of their own complex inner world. This explains the almost universal allure of the mask across human history. It offers a sanctioned, temporary escape from the constant pressure of being oneself. It provides a holiday for the ego. In a ritual context, this transcendence connects the individual to something much larger, the community, the ancestors, the cosmos. But even on a personal level, it satisfies a deep human yearning to experiment, to play, and to explore the vast landscape of potential identities that reside within each of us. The mask grants permission to be braver, wiser, wilder, or more vulnerable than one might dare to be in everyday life. It is a psychological tool of immense power, a crafted face that allows us to finally meet and perhaps even heal the many faces we hold inside. Yet this power and sacredness that we've been exploring also makes masks vulnerable. When they are removed from their original context and placed in a foreign one, be it a private collection, a commercial gallery, or even a museum display case, something fundamental shifts. The mask, once a living participant in a community's most vital ceremonies, risks becoming a silent, static object, its meaning flattened into a mere description of its aesthetics or age. This act of displacement raises profound ethical questions that strike at the heart of cultural respect, ownership, and the very right of a people to control their own heritage. It forces us to ask who has the right to own, display, and interpret these powerful objects. The most pressing issue is often one of appropriation and commercialization. When sacred masks are sold on the international art market as exotic curios or high-priced decor, a deep violation occurs. For the communities that created them, these are not art objects in the Western sense. They are living entities, often considered to be vessels for spiritual forces or the literal embodiment of ancestors. Their creation and use are governed by strict protocols: who can make them, who can wear them when they can be seen, and how they must be cared for. Selling such an item for profit, especially to someone outside the culture who cannot possibly understand or honor these protocols, severs it from its lifeblood. It strips the mask of its context, its purpose, and its soul, reducing a sacred being to a mere commodity. This is not just an insult, it's a form of spiritual harm, a rupture in the cultural continuity that the mask was meant to sustain. This ethical dilemma is at the core of the global repatriation movement, where Indigenous and First Nations communities are persistently campaigning for the return of their cultural patrimony from museums and private collections around the world. Many of these institutions are filled with masks and other sacred objects that were acquired under deeply problematic circumstances, through colonial conquest, looting, forced sale, or by anthropologists who may have believed they were preserving a dying culture but failed to obtain true, informed consent. The debate is not simply about legal ownership, it's about moral ownership and the right to cultural self-determination. As one Native American cultural leader powerfully stated, these are not artifacts. They are our grandmothers and grandfathers. They are our history, and they need to come home to rest. This perspective reframes the entire conversation, moving it from a debate over property to a matter of spiritual and cultural well-being. In response to these long overdue calls for justice, a significant shift is underway within the museum world. Progressive institutions are moving away from the old colonial model of collecting and are instead adopting stringent ethical guidelines centered on collaboration and consent. This means that instead of unilaterally deciding how to display a mask, curators are now actively reaching out to the source communities. They are inviting elders and knowledge keepers into the museum to consult on every aspect of its care, how it should be stored, how it should be handled, whether it can be photographed, and crucially, whether it should even be on public display at all. Some communities may request that certain powerful masks be kept in a private, consecrated space within the museum, only to be viewed by initiated members on specific occasions, respecting their original sacred context. This new collaborative model recognizes that museums are not the ultimate authorities on these objects. The living descendants of the people who created them are. It acknowledges that these masks are not dead relics of a vanished past but active, living heritage, central to the cultural vitality of communities in the present day. By prioritizing these voices, museums can transform from temples of appropriation into spaces of dialogue, reconciliation, and shared stewardship. This ethical awakening is not about locking away cultural treasures, but about ensuring they are understood, honored, and engaged with in a way that respects their true power and the people who gave them life. Yet for all their resilience, the survival of these ancient traditions is far from guaranteed in our rapidly changing world. The very forces of globalization that connect us also pose a subtle threat, homogenizing cultures and pulling younger generations toward globalized media and economies, often at the expense of local heritage. The delicate knowledge required to create and use ceremonial masks, the specific prayers whispered over the wood, the meaning behind a particular brushstroke, the precise rhythm of a dance that calls a spirit forth, this is not information that can be easily uploaded to the cloud. It resides in the hands, the voices, and the memories of master artists and elders, and when they pass without someone to receive that knowledge, an entire universe of understanding can vanish in a single generation. This isn't just about losing an art form, it's about severing a living link to a unique way of seeing the world, a vital thread in the rich tapestry of human creativity. In response to this quiet crisis, a powerful global movement of preservation and revitalization has emerged. One that understands saving a culture requires more than just storing artifacts in a museum. It requires active, living transmission. Nowhere is this more beautifully illustrated than on the island of Bali, where the intricate art of topeng mask dance is being given new life. Here, organizations are partnering with revered master artists, or maestro, who hold a lifetime of knowledge. These masters open their workshops to young Balinese students, not for a quick tourist workshop, but for the kind of long-term, disciplined apprenticeship that this complex art demands. The students learn far more than just how to carve a piece of wood into the face of a noble king or a mischievous servant. They learn the stories each character embodies, the exact way to hold their body to convey a specific emotion, and the spiritual discipline required to respectfully channel these ancient personas. This is education as cultural resuscitation, ensuring that the soul of topeng, its connection to Hindu epics and Balinese philosophy, continues to breathe and evolve within the community that gave it birth. Alongside these grassroots apprenticeships, technology is offering a powerful new set of tools for safeguarding this intangible heritage. Cultural anthropologists and community leaders are collaborating to create detailed digital archives. Using high-resolution 3D scanning, they can capture the exact contours of a historic mask, preserving its form long after the original materials might succumb to time. Video and audio recordings document not only the performances but also the nuanced teachings of elders, the stories they tell, the songs they sing, the subtle corrections they offer a dancer. These digital repositories become invaluable resources for future generations, a way to keep this knowledge accessible. However, the most thoughtful of these projects are deeply ethical, developed in close consultation with the source communities. They establish clear protocols. Some masks, due to their sacred nature, might be digitized but then have their images restricted, only available to certain initiated members. This approach demonstrates that preservation doesn't have to mean exploitation. Technology can serve tradition, making knowledge accessible without stripping it of its sacred context or compromising the cultural integrity that gives it meaning. The underlying philosophy driving these efforts, as emphasized by experts in cultural heritage, is that preservation cannot be about freezing a tradition in amber. The goal is not to create a perfect, unchanging replica of the past. Instead, the most successful efforts are adaptive, allowing the tradition to grow and resonate with new generations. This means a Balinese topeng dancer might still use traditional carving techniques, but perhaps they will also incorporate a contemporary story about environmental conservation into their performance. It means a digital archive might be used by a young artist in the diaspora to connect with a heritage they are physically distant from, inspiring them to create new work that speaks to their own modern, hybrid identity. This dynamic approach recognizes that a living culture is like a river, not a statue. It must be allowed to flow, to pick up new sediments and change course over time, all while maintaining its essential character and connection to its source. These multifaceted efforts, from the hands-on teaching in a Balinese workshop to the ethical use of a 3D scanner, all highlight a growing global recognition. Ceremonial masks are not merely curiosities. They are priceless pieces of humanity's intangible cultural heritage, each one a key to understanding a different way of being human. Their preservation is an act of safeguarding our collective imagination for the future. This incredible ability of masks to evolve and adapt finds its most vibrant expression when cultures meet. Throughout history, as people have migrated, traded, and explored, their artistic traditions have inevitably collided and combined, and mask-making is no exception. These cross-cultural encounters often give birth to stunning hybrid forms, where motifs from one tradition intertwine with the techniques and materials of another, creating something entirely new that still echoes its diverse origins. A mask carved in a new land might incorporate the sacred animal of a homeland with the distinctive wood native to its new environment, telling a story of journey and adaptation in a single, powerful image. These fusions are more than just aesthetic experiments. They are physical records of human connection, reflecting shared experiences of joy, sorrow, and resilience that transcend any single culture's boundaries. One of the most famous and complex examples of this intercultural dialogue unfolded in the early 20th century, when European artists like Pablo Picasso and Georges Braque encountered African masks for the first time. These objects, often brought to Europe from colonized nations, were frequently displayed in ethnographic museums as curiosities of primitive art. But for artists seeking to break free from the constraints of classical realism, these masks were a revelation. They were not interested in the mask's spiritual or social functions. Instead, they were captivated by their radical approach to form, the geometric abstraction, the fragmentation of features, and the powerful emotional presence achieved through simplification. Picasso's seminal painting, Les Demoiselles d'Avignon, with its mask-like faces, is unthinkable without this influence. This encounter helped ignite the artistic revolution of Cubism, which forever shattered the Western perspective on how art could represent reality. However, this story is not a simple celebration of inspiration. It is deeply entangled with the problematic dynamics of appropriation. These European artists extracted these forms from their cultural context, admiring them for their aesthetic qualities while largely ignoring their profound meanings and the people who created them. They took without fully understanding or acknowledging the source, a practice that often occurred within the broader, violent context of colonialism. This historical moment serves as a crucial lesson, highlighting the fine but essential line between inspiration that respectfully acknowledges influence and appropriation that strips cultural symbols of their significance and history. Thankfully, the modern approach to intercultural exchange is increasingly mindful of this complex history. Today, we see a more ethical and collaborative model flourishing in international festivals, artist residencies, and workshops. Imagine a gathering where a master carver from a First Nations community in Canada works alongside a papier-mâché artist from Mexico. They aren't copying each other's styles. They are in a genuine dialogue, sharing stories, techniques, and philosophies. The resulting mask might combine the bold, form-line design of the Pacific Northwest with the playful, satirical spirit of Mexican cartoneria, creating a unique object that speaks a new, hybrid visual language. These co-creations are built on a foundation of mutual respect, shared credit, and a sincere desire to understand the cultural weight behind the artistic choices. This shift transforms the mask from a borrowed aesthetic into a genuine bridge. It becomes a medium for a true conversation, fostering mutual understanding and driving artistic innovation that is both fresh and rooted. When artists from different backgrounds create together, they are doing more than making art. They are building relationships and crafting a shared narrative. These collaborative works stand as powerful testaments to our capacity for connection, proving that cultural traditions are not fragile things that need to be kept pure and separate to survive. Instead, they are resilient and dynamic, gaining new strength and relevance when they are allowed to interact with openness and respect. This ever-changing, intercultural dimension confirms that masking is a living, breathing global practice, constantly being rewritten through the creative encounters between people. And it is this very dynamism that makes masks such a potent and recurring symbol in the stories we tell ourselves on screens and in pages across the world. This journey of masks from sacred ritual to global screen reveals a powerful truth. The stories we tell are hungry for their symbolic power. Think of the haunting white visage worn by the Phantom of the Opera. It's not just a disguise for his physical disfigurement, it's a potent symbol of his fractured identity, his genius, and his tragic isolation. The mask becomes the character, a visual shorthand for the mystery and danger lurking beneath the opera house, drawing directly on the ancient association of masks with hidden truths and dual natures. This isn't an isolated case. Our modern mythology of superheroes is utterly dependent on the mask. From the cowl of Batman to the woven face of Spider-Man, the mask is the essential device that transforms an ordinary person into a symbol. It grants anonymity, yes, but it also allows the wearer to embody an ideal justice, hope, resilience that is larger than any single individual, echoing the way ceremonial dancers become vessels for ancestral spirits or deities. Fashion runways and music stages have also eagerly adopted the language of the mask. Designers like Alexander McQueen have sent models down the catwalk wearing breathtaking, often unsettling, face coverings that reference everything from medieval armor to animal spirits, using the mask to make bold statements about identity, protection, and the human relationship with nature and technology. A pop star wearing a bejeweled mask during a performance isn't just creating a look, they are tapping into that ancient power of transformation, creating a larger-than-life persona that transcends their everyday self. This widespread adoption shows how the mask's core functions: concealment, transformation, and the embodiment of an idea remain incredibly relevant, providing a rich visual vocabulary for exploring contemporary questions about who we are and how we present ourselves to the world. However, this borrowing from global traditions is not without its pitfalls. When pop culture plucks a mask from its cultural context purely for its exotic aesthetic, it risks reducing a deeply sacred object to a simple spooky prop or a cool costume accessory. A Hollywood film might depict a generic, tribal mask as a cursed object or a source of evil power, perpetuating harmful stereotypes about indigenous spiritual practices being primitive or sinister. This kind of simplification doesn't just misinform audiences, it can cause real harm to the cultures being represented, diluting their heritage and reinforcing outdated, colonialist perspectives. The mask becomes divorced from its story, its people, and its purpose, becoming a hollow shell of its true self. This is where the role of media scholars and culturally conscious creators becomes so vital. Thoughtful analysis shows that responsible representation isn't about avoiding these symbols altogether, but about engaging with them respectfully and contextually. A video game like Never Alone, developed in collaboration with the Inupiat people of Alaska, integrates traditional masks and stories not as background decoration, but as central, authentic elements of gameplay that actually teach players about the culture. A filmmaker might choose to consult with cultural elders to understand the significance of a mask they wish to feature, ensuring its portrayal is accurate and honors its original meaning. This approach transforms appropriation into appreciation. It uses the powerful platform of popular culture not to take, but to share, not to simplify, but to educate. It allows the mask to be a doorway for audiences into a deeper understanding of a world they might otherwise never encounter. This pervasive media presence, for all its complexities, ultimately performs a crucial function. It keeps the mask alive in the global imagination. A child who sees a powerful mask in a blockbuster movie might be inspired to learn more about its real-world origins. A fashion enthusiast might discover the artistry of Venetian Carnival masks or the symbolism of Japanese no theater through a designer's collection. Even when the representation is flawed, it can spark a curiosity that leads to a more nuanced understanding. This ensures that these ancient artifacts are not forgotten relics but continue to evolve and resonate, influencing how new generations perceive and engage with the idea of masking. They remain a vital part of our collective storytelling toolkit, their ancient power constantly being rediscovered and reinterpreted for a new age, proving that the human fascination with changing our face, and in doing so, changing our very selves, is a story that never grows old. So where do we go from here? The story of the mask is clearly far from over. In fact, we might be on the cusp of its most radical transformation yet, as ancient practices converge with cutting-edge technology and a growing global consciousness. The digital realm, often criticized for isolating us, is becoming a surprising new stage for ceremonial masking. Imagine not just watching a ritual on a screen, but actually participating in one through a virtual reality headset. Artists and technologists are already experimenting with digital masks, animated, interactive avatars that users can wear in online spaces. These aren't mere filters for social media, they are being designed for fully immersive virtual rituals. A community scattered across the globe could gather in a digital sacred space, each person represented by a mask that embodies a specific intention, ancestor, or archetype. This could allow diasporic communities to maintain ceremonial practices despite physical distance and create entirely new, global rituals focused on collective healing or environmental meditation. The mask in this context becomes a portal not just between the human and spirit worlds, but between the physical and the digital, proving that the core human need for ritual transformation can find expression in any medium. Simultaneously, the urgent crises of our physical world are inspiring a powerful new chapter in mask-making, one deeply engaged with activism and material awareness. A growing movement of contemporary artists is turning away from traditional, sometimes scarce materials and towards the detritus of modern consumerism. They are crafting stunning, thought-provoking masks from recycled plastics, discarded electronics, and reclaimed ocean waste. These pieces are profound commentaries on sustainability. A mask made from tangled fishing nets isn't just a representation of a water spirit. It is the literal embodiment of the ocean's plight. Wearing it or witnessing it in a performance becomes an act of ecological mourning and protest, merging the ceremonial function of embodying a spirit with the urgent call to protect our natural world. This practice powerfully echoes the oldest principles of masking, using what is available in your environment to connect with larger forces while fiercely addressing the most pressing issue of our time. It transforms the mask from a symbol of the past into an urgent message for the future. Futurists who study the intersection of technology and culture suggest that these developments are not random trends, but logical responses to a deep human hunger. As our lives become more digitally mediated and our planet faces unprecedented challenges, people are seeking authentic connections to community, to purpose, and to something larger than themselves. The very things that ceremonial masks have provided for millennia. The predictions are fascinating. We might see the rise of hybrid rituals that use a 3D printed mask made from recycled materials in a physical location, while also incorporating a digital twin of that mask for participants joining via VR from another continent. The essence remains the same, the act of transformation and communal connection, but the methods are adapted for a new era. This adaptability is the ultimate proof of the mask's enduring relevance. It shows that these objects are not fragile relics to be preserved behind glass, but robust, dynamic, and resilient symbols of human creativity. They are evolving with us, ready to meet our modern needs for meaning, providing tangible, visceral tools to navigate an increasingly intangible world, and reminding us that even in the face of artificial intelligence and virtual worlds, the most powerful technology we possess might still be the simple, ancient act of changing our face to better understand our heart. So you've been captivated by the profound world of ceremonial masks, and you're feeling inspired to learn more, perhaps even to connect with these traditions yourself. That sense of wonder and curiosity is a beautiful starting point, but the journey from an interested observer to a respectful participant requires intention and care. The most important principle to hold onto is this: these are not costumes or crafts, they are living, breathing elements of someone else's cultural and spiritual identity. The goal is never to take but to understand, not to wear but to witness and support. It's about shifting your mindset from one of consumption to one of relationship building, even if that relationship is from a distance. A powerful and joyful way to begin is by seeking out authentic cultural festivals and public ceremonies, but with a crucial caveat: always ensure they are events that welcome outside visitors. Many communities around the world hold annual festivals where masking traditions are shared publicly as a point of pride and cultural education. These are incredible opportunities to witness the artistry, music, and dance in their proper context, surrounded by the people for whom these practices are a birthright. However, it's vital to remember that you are a guest. Attend with the demeanor of a respectful visitor, not an entitled tourist. Observe any posted rules about photography, follow the lead of the crowd, and understand that some moments may be too sacred for applause or commentary. Your quiet, attentive presence is the highest form of respect. Purchasing crafts or food from local vendors at such events is a fantastic way to directly support the community whose culture you are there to appreciate. If a particular style of mask or a specific cultural tradition truly resonates with you, consider going beyond observation to direct support. Seek out and buy artwork from indigenous or cultural artists themselves, rather than from large commercial retailers or online marketplaces that mass-produce imitations. When you purchase a mask directly from a master carver or a community-run cooperative, you are doing more than acquiring an object. You are investing in the survival of a legacy. You are helping to put food on the table for a family that is dedicating its life to preserving a unique artistic language. This direct economic support is one of the most tangible and positive actions you can take. It ensures that the financial benefits of their cultural heritage flow back to its source, empowering artists to continue their work and, crucially, to teach the next generation. For those whose interest runs deeper, the path of dedicated study is open, but it must be walked with humility. The knowledge surrounding these traditions is often considered sacred and is typically earned through trust and long-term relationships. Look for educational resources created by or in close collaboration with the cultures themselves. This could be a book written by a cultural anthropologist who has spent decades working with a community, not just studying them. It might be an online course offered by a cultural center or museum that has established ethical partnerships with knowledge keepers. The key is to learn from the voices of authority within the tradition, not from secondary interpreters who might inadvertently distort or simplify the meaning. Avoid the temptation of short online tutorials that promise to teach you how to make a tribal mask. These often traffic in appropriation, reducing profound symbols to a weekend project. Ultimately, ethical engagement is about recognizing boundaries and honoring the fact that some knowledge and experiences are not meant for everyone. Some masks are meant only for the eyes of initiated community members. Some stories are not for public retelling. Respecting these boundaries doesn't limit your experience, it deepens it. It shows a mature understanding that the world's cultural diversity is a tapestry of unique and specific practices, not a buffet for our personal consumption. By choosing to engage with respect, curiosity, and a commitment to supporting authentic voices, you do more than just protect these traditions. You become part of a global community that values cultural richness, ensuring that these powerful, transformative practices continue to thrive for generations to come. It's easy to look at a ceremonial mask and see only its surface, a carved piece of wood, a painted face, an exotic artifact from a distant culture. This is where many of our most common misconceptions take root, reducing objects of immense cultural depth to simple stereotypes. One of the most persistent myths is the idea that masks are fundamentally about concealment, about hiding one's identity to deceive or perform a simple trick. But across almost every tradition we've explored, the exact opposite is true. The purpose of the mask is not to hide the truth, but to reveal a deeper one. When a dancer in a Dogon funeral rite wears a mask to guide a soul to the afterlife, they are not concealing themselves. They are unveiling a cosmic truth about the cycle of life and death. When a Kwakwakawakwa performer activates a transformation mask, the dramatic reveal is an act of revelation, making a foundational myth visible and tangible for the entire community. The mask acts as a lens, focusing attention on a spiritual or social reality that is usually invisible, moving the focus from the individual ego of the wearer to the universal truth they are channeling. This leads directly to another widespread misunderstanding, the dismissive label of primitive. This outdated term carries a heavy colonial baggage, implying a lack of sophistication or a simple-minded superstition. Nothing could be further from the truth. The creation and use of a single ceremonial mask can involve a breathtaking synthesis of disciplines. It is advanced cosmology, storytelling, and philosophy expressed in physical form. Consider the intricate geometric patterns on a BWA plank mask from Burkina Faso. Each zigzag and checkerboard is a precise code, a visual language that encapsulates lessons on social structure, ethical behavior, and the relationship between humanity and the cosmos. This is not primitive symbolism. It is a highly sophisticated system of knowledge transmission, as complex as any written text. Furthermore, the artistry itself is a pinnacle of human achievement. The technical skill required to carve a seamless transformation mask with moving parts, or to shape a delicate no-theater mask that expresses different emotions based on the angle of the actor's head, represents a lifetime of dedicated mastery. These are not the products of a simple or undeveloped mind, but of a deeply refined and complex cultural intelligence. Perhaps the most damaging misconception of all is the notion that these practices are mere folklore, ancient traditions fossilized in the past with no relevance to the modern world. This view ignores the dynamic, living reality of masking. These traditions are not static museum exhibits. They are vital, evolving practices that continue to provide meaning, resolve conflict, and foster community cohesion today. The Jellad masquerades of the Yoruba people actively incorporate satire about contemporary political figures and social issues. The digital masquerades being developed in virtual reality spaces are exploring new frontiers of community and identity for the 21st century. To write these off as relics is to ignore their incredible adaptability and their ongoing role in helping people navigate the challenges of life, from personal trauma to social injustice. They are not about escaping reality, but about engaging with it more deeply, using symbolic action to process, understand, and transform the human experience. By consciously setting aside these misconceptions of concealment, of primitivism, of irrelevance, we clear the way for a genuine appreciation. We can begin to see masks for what they truly are: sophisticated, multi-layered cultural tools. They are tools for education, encoding a community's history and values in a form that is unforgettable. They are tools for social order, like the Dan Glee mask that embodies impartial justice. They are tools for psychological exploration, allowing individuals to safely confront hidden aspects of the self. And ultimately, they are tools of connection, bridging the human and the divine, the individual and the community, the past and the present. When we understand this, we stop seeing a strange artifact and start seeing a profound expression of human ingenuity. We recognize that behind every mask is a wealth of wisdom, a legacy of artistry, and a set of answers to the universal questions that have always defined us. Who are we? Where do we belong? And how do we make sense of this world together? What if the ancient wisdom of the mask could become a personal toolkit for navigating the complexities of modern life? This isn't about literally wearing a carved face to the office or the supermarket, but about embracing the core principles that have made masks so powerful for millennia: transformation, connection, and symbolic expression, and allowing them to inform our daily choices and interactions. These concepts, honed over countless generations, offer surprisingly practical and profound insights for our contemporary world, providing pathways to greater empathy, self-awareness, and creative problem-solving. Consider the modern workplace, an environment often dominated by rigid roles and fixed hierarchies. Here, the mask's principle of transformation can be a catalyst for innovation. Forward-thinking organizations are beginning to incorporate mask-like activities into their team building and creative workshops. Employees might be guided through an exercise where they are asked to physically embody a different role, perhaps a customer, a competitor, or even an abstract concept like efficiency or innovation. This isn't play acting, it's a form of structured empathy. By temporarily stepping out of their own job title and perspective, individuals can break free from cognitive ruts, see challenges from a completely new angle, and generate solutions that would never have emerged from a standard meeting. The act of wearing another perspective, even metaphorically, builds the mental muscle of adaptability, a crucial skill in our rapidly changing world. It encourages a culture where identity is fluid enough to embrace new ideas and where collaboration means truly understanding the other person's view. On a more personal and therapeutic level, the practice of mask-making has found a powerful home in art therapy. Here, the focus is not on creating a culturally specific ceremonial object, but on using the process as a vehicle for internal exploration. A therapist might ask a client to create two masks, one that represents the face they show to the world, the persona, and another that represents their inner, hidden self, their fears, desires, or unexpressed emotions. The very act of giving these intangible feelings a physical form can be incredibly liberating. Moldable clay, layers of papier-mâché, paint, and found objects become the vocabulary for parts of the self that are difficult to articulate with words alone. Then, in the safety of the therapeutic space, the individual might be invited to wear one of these self-created masks. This physical act of embodiment can provide the necessary distance and safety to give voice to those hidden emotions, to confront a trauma, or to experiment with a new way of being. The mask becomes a container, a safe intermediary that allows for profound healing and integration, demonstrating how an ancient tool of external transformation can be turned inward for deep psychological work. This invites a broader, more philosophical reflection for all of us. We all wear metaphorical masks every single day. The professional demeanor we adopt for a presentation is a mask. The patient, calming tone we use with a frustrated child is a mask. The brave face we put on during a difficult time is a mask. Rather than seeing this as inauthentic or deceptive, we can choose to see it as the mask tradition teaches us, as a powerful and conscious act of adaptation. The question shifts from, am I being fake, to which part of myself does this situation need me to be? Understanding that we all contain multitudes, the leader, the listener, the protector, the innovator allows us to consciously choose which mask to wear to best serve a given moment or relationship. This is the ultimate integration of mask wisdom, recognizing that our identity is not a single, fixed thing, but a dynamic repertoire of potential selves. By thoughtfully engaging with these different aspects, we don't lose ourselves. We become more versatile, more empathetic, and more capable of moving through the world with grace and understanding, equipped with an ancient form of wisdom to meet the demands of a modern existence. Throughout this incredible journey, we've witnessed the mask in its truest light, not as a simple disguise, but as one of humanity's most profound and versatile creations. We've seen it serve as a bridge to the spirit world in the hands of ancient shamans, a living legal document in Dan communities, a satirical mirror in Korean village squares, and a vessel for divine energy in Haitian ceremonies. We've watched it guide souls to the afterlife in Mali, teach moral lessons in Burkina Faso, and turn the social order upside down in the canals of Venice. From the cedar forests of the Pacific Northwest to the digital realms of virtual reality, the mask has consistently proven itself to be so much more than an object. It is a dynamic, living practice. What unites these countless traditions across oceans and millennia is a universal human yearning, a yearning to connect with our ancestors, with our community, with the natural world, and with the deeper, often hidden parts of ourselves. Masks provide the tool for that connection. They allow us to tell our stories in a way that is visceral and unforgettable. They help us navigate life's greatest transitions from birth to death, marking our passages with meaning and communal support. They give form to our fears and our hopes, allowing us to confront chaos, plead for abundance, and celebrate the cycles that govern our existence. In a world that can often feel fragmented and isolating, the history of the mask reminds us of our enduring need for shared ritual, for symbolic expression, and for the powerful bonds that are forged when we come together to witness something transformative. This exploration invites us to carry forward a new perspective, one of deep respect and nuanced understanding. It challenges us to look beyond the surface of these artifacts and to recognize the vast oceans of meaning, history, and skill they contain. They are treasures of human creativity, yes, but they are also testaments to our resilience, our ability to adapt, to preserve, and to find new ways to express ancient truths in a changing world. The story of the mask is ultimately a story about us, about our endless quest for meaning and our profound capacity for connection. If this journey into the heart of these historical mysteries has sparked your curiosity, we would love to hear what resonated most with you. Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below, and if you want to join us for more adventures uncovering the hidden stories of our world, be sure to subscribe. Remember, every mask holds a story, and every story is an invitation to look closer, to learn more, and to see the incredible richness of human culture with fresh, wondering eyes. What will you uncover?